Can algorithm reliably diagnose an individual condition?
Well, they can. A lot of diagnoses are not so complicated. Like occasionally we'll get something that's out of the ordinary and difficult, and that's the sort of case you see on House. The series where you have this often eccentric, brilliant clinician whose job it is to diagnose the impossible, like the really difficult day. But they are rare. 90% of diagnoses are obvious, whether it's to AI or to a doctor. And AI is pretty good. It doesn't miss a lot. Whereas a doctor, you could say, give 5 symptoms or 6 symptoms, and they can look at them and work out a problem. But once you get into 20 or 30 symptoms, even doctors will get some of it they'll forget or they'll not factor in. AI is much, much stronger at doing that. So most of the time AI will actually, if it's not already, do a better job of diagnosing than at least a junior doctor, if not a senior doctor. Of course, it won't get it right 100% of the time, but unfortunately, doctors don't either. So you can't sort of hold that against the AI. And AI is getting better all the time because, again, the beauty of AI is it learns from its mistakes. So you tell it got wrong, it won't make the same mistake twice. Whereas, unfortunately, humans sometimes do have a habit of repeating their mistakes. So the natural consequence is that, yes, overall AI is going to be better at making a diagnosis. The question then is, well, can a consumer go and ask AI? Well, the problem there is the AI validated to give the diagnosis? So not all AI is the same. So, there's potentially thousands of different AI algorithms and programs running out there. They're being updated and changing every day, but some of them will be good at doing medical diagnoses, some won't, because it depends also what you've trained the AI on. If you train the AI to be a doctor, then it will be extremely accurate. If you train the AI to be an artist and then ask it to make a diagnosis, it may still do a good job. I've been shocked because with AI now they're training it with so much. So even if they're training artistry AI, it will actually still get fed a lot of medical information. And so you could be shocked if you ask a question in a very specific field. A lot of the AI actually can actually answer it. And it's getting better and better. So yeah, it's inevitable that AI will end up being at least the equivalent of a very senior, diagnostic clinician. Can it surpass that? Maybe, like that's possible because it can look at like gene, and I've been, I guess, doing some work with AI recently, looking at interpreting patterns of genes, and genomic data is just endless. And it's just lots of codes and numbers and that humans just can't analyze. It's impossible. It's like looking at a book of 1 million numbers and trying to memorize them all and then interpret them. A human just can't do that. So you give those jobs to either computer algorithms, which we used to do in the past, where we've told it this is how you analyze the data and it does it. Or now you can just give it to AI just without processing it at all. Just say, here it is. Can you have a look at this, this massive data and tell me what you think is happening here in those words? And it'll come back with, a whole lot of structured, intelligent, I'm going to analyze the data in this way. This is what I've done. Here's what I found. And here's, it mightn't be correct, but here's what you need to do to test that, to establish that, you know, what I think is the case is the case. So it's not even assuming it's right. It's assuming that it may be right, but there is, it will tell you that what the other possibilities are. So almost challenging itself, just like a scientist would, saying, I have a great hypothesis, which I think is right, it fits my data, but what additional experiments do I need to do to really convince myself? AI is now doing that back to us. It's just like talking to another scientist, which is fabulous, I have to say, and very stimulating. And of course, I'm spending more time in front of my computer because the AI is becoming so engaging. It's just like talking to another scientist, which, you know, it wasn't even a year or two ago. You had to just punch data in and you had to think of the question yourself. And now you can just say, here's this, have a look, here's some more, here's what I know, and have an interaction with the AI. It's brilliant, no doubt about it.
Do you think that now this diagnostic assistance is extending to the medical management and surgical management? At least
yeah, it's what we call a closed loop system. And, you know, I'm an endocrinologist, so I treat a lot of people with diabetes. And initially, you know, we had insulin pumps, which were a great technology, but we had to program them. So insulin pumps didn't measure your blood sugar and work out how much insulin. We had to program them to, you know, what the pattern of insulin that they would deliver is. Then the patient had to do a blood sugar and then tell the pump to give it, you know, X amount of insulin. So the pump wasn't intelligent. So it wasn't a closed loop. Now we're at the point where there's closed loop pumps. So now the pumps are making their own decisions. You know, they have a probe which is measuring the patient's blood sugar, and then the pump has an experience, so it's seen what happens when for that sugar, if, you know, in other times in the past, what it's done. And so now it's increasingly becoming a closed loop where the pump can actually make the decision, as you say, to treat the patient. It was a brave new world because the regulators didn't know how to manage that. Like, who's liable if the pump makes a bad decision? You know, it's no longer the doctor or the patient who's made the decision. It's the pump. You know, do you make the pump manufacturer liable? But that would kill the industry because then no manufacturer is going to make a pump if, you know, an intelligent pump, if they can get sued for, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars if the pump somehow makes a poor decision. After all, the doctor makes you know, we have to make judgment calls all the time, and we aren't going to get it right every time. And no one necessarily holds that against us. You know, if we get the insulin dose wrong and the patient goes a bit low in their sugar, that's not negligence. That's just, you know, imprecision that you know, it's a judgment call. You know, and so AI, you know, managing having a closed loop system where the AI is making a judgment call, we can't expect it to be 100% perfect because no one. The system simply, you know, can't be 100% perfect, but it may be better than anything else. But we can't then say the liability when it doesn't quite work right needs to transfer to someone because otherwise we'll never have the technology. So it's a bit like planes that fly themselves and fly by wire. The technology was there, but it took us like 20 years to build the confidence to let the plane fly itself. Autonomous cars, again, technology has been around a long time for cars to drive themselves. It's humans sort of trying to build the confidence to be brave enough to let the car drive itself. That's the limiting factor. And so that's what we'll see with AI. AI can probably do the job. It might be 10 or 15 years before we're confident enough to let AI do the job of diagnosis and as you say, instituting treatment. But it will happen. It's inevitable because we've got an aging population. There's not enough doctors and nurses. There's disparities in delivery of health because, poor countries, again, don't have doctors in every village, or, they often are a long way away from hospitals. Using AI, we could deliver them the same quality of care as we get, living in big industrialised countries in the middle of cities. We shouldn't deprive them of that. But what it's going to take is confidence. It's not the technology's not good enough. It's that humans are just very, very slow to build the confidence to make that step and hand over control to a machine. In this case, to AI.
A robot performing an oral procedure, a dental procedure on my teeth, I mean, it's probably not the most comfortable thought right now. So maybe one.
What if it drills too far? Yeah. I think everyone is terrified of dentists, and so maybe a robotic dentist, although it probably makes a lot of sense, and I suspect, because it's a fix, they can hold the tooth and, then do the procedure. So it probably would do an amazing job. It may be, as you say, one of the places that's implemented last because we're all just so terrified of what might go wrong. And would we trust a robot versus a human dentist? If it's a prescribing system, again, it just says, "Oh, we'll go to the chemist and get this medication." I think people wouldn't be scared of it. But when it's actually sticking needles and drills in your mouth, I think most people will get very nervous.